devotees, especially the members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association that attend these meetings. We very much appreciate your weekly participation in these classes and your allowance to be on the live stream, which is being recorded for future bhaktas and devotees who are interested in going back home, back to Godhead. This is the methodology that Prabhupada introduced to us when he started the ISKCON movement, which was to regularly attend the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class on a daily basis. Now with our group, we do have, it's a 3 classes per week program. Saturday morning, Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the east coast of Canada and the United States. And then we have the Chaitanya Charitamrita class every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. So for those that are attending, I know that they're enjoying the association as much as I am, hearing the philosophy given by the followers of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, who enjoy reading the unadulterated, unchanged books that he graced our world with while he was present personally with us on this planet. So Prabhupada's history is a tremendous inspiration for all of us. And subsequently, what we've done is we've started with the classes by reading from his diaries. And I know all of you, or probably most of you, keep a day timer, which monitors your weekly activities and gives an insight. There's sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. That's a quote from highly successful people. And the idea is that we are the sum total of our habits. So when you see what you do every day, you get an insight into your character. And so Prabhupada's diary here at the beginning, the journal, 1966, it gives us an insight into what a pure devotee is thinking and how he's acting. And in this way, we can set our own standards to follow in the footsteps of a fully renounced soul. This is the business of the disciple. So the Upper West Side summary. So what it is here in this particular book, they've summarized the highlights. So we'll read first from the summary and then we'll forge through the book day after day, or week after week, I should say, as a group, and get the kind of understanding that all disciples of Śrīla Prabhupada should have. On January 19th, when the first entry occurs, Śrīla Prabhupada is living in the rear rooms of the yoga studio of Dr. Ramamurti Mishra at Suite 501, 100 West 72nd Street on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Daily, Śrīla Prabhupada walks several blocks to Dr. Mishra's residential apartment at 33 Riverside Drive to bathe and cook his meals. So he had no facility for cooking or cleaning himself. In the evenings, Śrīla Prabhupāda holds classes for interested persons. Some of Dr. Mishra's students attend these classes. During the day, Śrīla Prabhupāda is active in selling his books to bookstores. He writes to newspapers and radio stations and organizes occasional speaking engagements. He also writes to large charitable foundations like the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. On the weekends, Śrīla Prabhupāda joins Dr. Mishra on yoga retreats at the Ananda Ashram in Monroe in upstate New York. Here he conducts kirtans, which the students appreciate. Śrīla Prabhupāda is looking for a building to purchase as a Hare Krishna temple. He hopes this will be financed by Sri Padmapat Singhania, a wealthy industrialist in Kanpur, India. Śrīla Prabhupāda contacts the Salvation Army to arrange the transfer of funds from India to America. He also writes to his godbrothers in India to petition the President of India to sanction the foreign exchange. This endeavor occupies Śrīla Prabhupāda for almost 5 months. On February 2nd, Śrīla Prabhupāda purchases a tape recorder to record classes, kirtans, and bhajans. He pays the equivalent of 1 month's rent. On February 20th, he completes tape recording of the Gita Upanishad introduction. Years later, this becomes the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Śrīla Prabhupāda tries to enlist the aid of Charlotte LeBlanc, who has been attending the classes, to edit his manuscript of the Bhagavad Gita. She becomes reluctant when she learns that Śrīla Prabhupāda's philosophy is opposed to monism. Śrīla Prabhupāda wants his own place, and on February 9th, he signs a lease with the manager of the same building to rent an office room. On February 23rd, Śrīla Prabhupāda forms the International Institution for God Consciousness and enrolls 7 of the people who are attending his classes. One of these is Harvey Cohn, who introduces Śrīla Prabhupāda to Paul Murray, then young man seeking spiritual knowledge. In March, Śrīla Prabhupāda's room is burgled. His tape recorder, typewriter, and book bag are stolen. Within days, Śrīla Prabhupāda moves to a loft at 94 Bowery, which he shares with Paul Murray. While he is obligated to give a month's notice at his present location, he changes the venue of his classes on April 1st and travels downtown for each meeting. So we'll carry on reading on Wednesday evening passages from his actual diary. So let us now move forward with the class by Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and we'll request Vinkat to please play Jaya Radha Madhava and chant along and enjoy the transcendental journey. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridham ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Swami Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. From Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 4. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1. To the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2. To the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4. To Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. Then we have from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 17. Shrinvatam svakata Krishna punyashravana kirtana hridyantasto yabhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18. Nashta prayeshu avabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. So what is the text here today, Venkat?
In fact, these two texts are what we're doing today. 17
Okay,
and 18.
good. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyanta stoya badrani vidunoti surit satam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, those who have developed the urge for hearing the message of svakata, his own words, Krishna, the personality of Godhead, punya, virtues, shravana, hearing, kirtana, chanting, hridyantasta, within one's heart, he certainly, abhadrani, desire to enjoy matter, vidunoti, cleanses, surit, benefactor, satam, of the truthful. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. We'd like to point out that in this reading, all the synonyms, translations, and purports are from His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness movement. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Purport. Messages of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, are non-different from him. Whenever, therefore, offenseless glorification and hearing of the same is undertaken, it is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as much powerful as the Lord is personally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in its Shikshastakam, declares it clearly that the holy name of the Lord has all the potencies of the Lord, and he has endowed his innumerable names with the same potency. There is no rigid fixture of time, and anyone can chant the holy name with attention and reverence at his convenience. The Lord is so kind to us that he can be present before us personally in the form of sound transcendental. But unfortunately, we have no taste for hearing and glorifying the Lord's name and activities. We have already discussed this point of developing a taste for hearing and chanting the holy sound. It is done through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. The Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance in the transcendental service of the Lord, and thus becomes eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps such sincere devotee in all respects. Nobody can enter into the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. The material sins are products of our desires to lord it over the material nature. It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Women and wealth, these two items are very difficult problems for the devotee making progress on the path of going back to Godhead. Many stalwarts in the devotional line fell a victim of these allurements and thus retreated from the path of liberation. Even when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole thing becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. To become restless in the contact of women and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from a remote time, practically immemorial, and it takes time to recover from the foreign nature. But if one is engaged in the matter of hearing the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes the real position. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind. Nashtaprayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Nashta, destroyed, prayeshu, almost to nil, abhadreshu, all that is inauspicious, nityam, regularly, bhagavata, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, or the pure devotee, sevaya, by serving, bhagavati, unto the personality of Godhead, uttama, transcendental, shloke, prayers, bhaktir, loving service, bhavati, comes into being, naistiki, irrevocable. Translation by His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class, or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, comes into being, an irrevocable fact. Purport by Śrīla Prabhupāda. Here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is the associations of the Bhagavats. There are two types of Bhagavats, namely the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat. Both the Bhagavats are competent remedies, and both of them or either of them can be good enough for eliminating the obstacles. A devotee Bhagavat is as good as book Bhagavat because the devotee Bhagavat lives his life in terms of the book Bhagavat. And the book Bhagavat is full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees who are also Bhagavats. Bhagavatam book or the person is identical. The devotee Bhagavat is direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavat, one can receive the benefit of book Bhagavat. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are facts as they are explained by Sri Naradeva, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. the maidservant was engaged in the menial service of the sages, and thus he also got contact of them. And simply by associating with them and accepting the remnants of foodstuff left by the sages, the son of the maidservant got the chance of becoming the great devotee and personality like Sri Narada Deva. These are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavats. And to understand these effects practically, it may be noted that by such association of the Bhagavats sincerely, one is sure to receive transcendental knowledge very easily. And the result is that he becomes fixed in the business of devotional service of the Lord. The more the progress is made in the devotional service under the guidance of the Bhagavats, the more one becomes fixed up in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The messages of the book Bhagavat, therefore, as to be received from the devotee Bhagavat, in combination of these two Bhagavats, will help the neophyte devotee to make progress and so on. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Miritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshatah Adadana Srinam Danteridam Yache Punah Punah Srimadurhu Papadam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatam Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupāda, who has opened my eyes, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. It's significant to note that this particular verse and a series of verses that starts with text number 16, they're quoted in one of the purports in the Bhagavad Gita that we're also in the process of studying. When Śrīla Prabhupada describes the path of bhakti, these 4 or 5 verses are very important. It is a systematic explanation all the way to text number 19, and well as number 20 and number 21. These 5-6 verses are a very important description of the process of bhakti yoga, or the systematic process of loving devotional service to the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. It is also notable that in the Nectar of Devotion, the translation of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Śrīla Rupa Goswami Prabhupāda, in that translation, Prabhupada explains very nicely the systematic process of bhakti based on the verse Ado Shraddha Tato Sadhu Sangha, that first everything begins with faith, then by the association of devotees, by accepting a spiritual master, taking initiation from him, engaging in the process of bhakti, the clearing of the anarthas, and gradually developing very strong faith, developing attachment, and gradually all the way to the various levels of love of Godhead. It's quite significant to note that in our Sampradaya, the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the great acharyas like Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, as well as Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Baladevi Bhusana, and then more recently, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our Śrīla Prabhupada have all quoted these various verses that we're reading here in their explanation of the process of bhakti. Now, Śrīla Prabhupada here is very nicely explaining why the service of the Bhagavat, the service of the devotee Bhagavat, as well as the service of the book Bhagavat are very important. It's important to note that in text number 17 in the purport, Śrīla Prabhupada says, messages of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, are non-different from him. Because the question may be raised, why are we spending so much time studying and hearing Bhagavatam and coming to class for Bhagavatam? Well, Prabhupada explains here, this is direct association with Lord Krishna. Then the next question a person may ask, well, what will be the benefit of this Bhagavatam hearing or reading? Prabhupada, it is explained by Krishna himself, the great sages of Nimesharaya and Sutta Goswami explains, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. It is quite significant to note that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj described that Kali Kali Krishna Rupe Nam Avatar, that in the age of Kali Yuga, Krishna is incarnated in the form of his holy name. Very important. Because sometimes people ask, well, why you people in your Sampradaya put so much importance on this chanting of Hare Krishna? Just last night, I was speaking to a devotee in India who was explaining that he had a discussion very recently with a devotee from another Sampradaya. And this devotee basically had certain bad habits, like taking coffee, tea, onions, garlic, but he was very proud to have been born in a Brahmin family and doing his Sandhya Vandana, his Gayatri 3 times a day. So when our devotee friend, the Gaudiya devotee, pointed out to this Brahmin, or pseudo-Brahmin, that you cannot be engaging in these kind of activities of drinking nonsense, gossiping, speaking nonsense, eating onions and garlic, and thinking that you are a Brahmin. This is forbidden for those who are Brahmin or situated in the Brahminical position. And when our friend pointed out that if you want to be a real Brahmin, you should chant Hare Krishna. This is recommended by Śrīla Prabhupāda and all the great acharyas in our Gaudiya Sampradaya. And the devotee says, oh, that is not so important. It's more important to chant the Gayatri 3 times a day. So we can see that so many people develop so many misconceptions and misunderstanding because they do not hear from the proper authorities. That is why Śrīla Prabhupada here is mentioning that we have already discussed this point of developing a taste for hearing and chanting the holy sound. It is done through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. So that the conversation last night, I pointed out to him, this is the difference between association with and hearing from an actual realized Shuddha Bhakta, completely liberated, pure devotee, Paramahamsa, topmost Mahabhagavat like Śrīla Prabhupāda, and some so-called caste Brahmin. So many misconceptions are there. So many misconceptions are there. That is why it is so important to hear from the pure devotee. Sanatana Goswami, in his Hari Bhakti Vilasas, nicely explained that one should be very careful not to hear from the Avaishnava, from the non-Vaishnava. Why? Avaishnava Mukut Girnam Putan Hari Katamritam. That one should not hear from a non-Vaishnava, although topics of Lord Hari, Lord Krishna, are described as Putam Hari Katamritam. It is Amritam, it is nectar to hear topics related to Lord Krishna. Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the explanation of the pure devotee acharyas. This is very pleasant, very sweet. But Shravanam neva kartavyam, do not hear from the Avaishnava. Sarpochistam yatapayaha, just like milk touched by a snake or a serpent becomes poisonous. Although it looks like liquid, it looks like milk, it will have a very different effect. Those of you who are familiar in India, they have what they call Bhagavat Saptaha. They imitate Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, and they recite the entire Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in 7 days. But Prabhupada criticizes this practice, that one cannot imitate Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. One has to follow in their footsteps. And this is a very important point, because we can see here how Prabhupada explains in text 157 in the purport, the last paragraph. Prabhupada says, to become restless in the contact of women and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from a remote time, practically immemorial, and it takes time to recover from the foreign nature. But if one is engaged in the matter of hearing the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes the real position. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind. And this is the whole topic of text number 18. What, just like the question we raised earlier, well, what will be the benefit of attending this Bhagavatam class? Prabhupada explains. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class, or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to hell, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, comes into being an irrevocable fact. And if we look in the first paragraph of that purport, Prabhupada is explaining the potency of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and the devotee Bhagavatam. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is the story of how one devotee or pseudo-devotee came to Swarup Damodar, the personal secretary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, because nobody could approach Lord Chaitanya directly. They had to go to Swarup Damodar. So this devotee had composed some poetry, and he presented it to Swarup Damodar to show to Lord Chaitanya. And Swarup Damodar corrected this person. Bhagavat Paragya Bhagavatastane. In order to understand the Bhagavatam, you have to go through the devotee Bhagavat. Now, this is sometimes misunderstood by some persons claiming, oh, no, this applies to the living person. No, but this is not how Prabhupada describes it here. Every one of you is familiar in these discussions here Prabhupada once wrote a letter, even if they touch the Bhagavatam, they will get some benefit. Even if they appreciate the Bhagavatam. We see in the Nectar of Devotion, it is described that even if one keeps the Bhagavatam in his house, just keep it there, it is very auspicious. What to speak of hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and rendering service unto the Bhagavad devotee. Even persons who are thoroughly unqualified to engage in devotional activities because of so many bad habits from birth, by the mercy of a pure devotee, can become rectified, purified, and engage in the service of Krishna. Prabhupada explains in the second paragraph on page 158, the devotee Bhagavat is direct representative of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So by pleasing the devotee Bhagavat, one can receive the benefit of book Bhagavat. Human reason fails to understand how by serving the devotee Bhagavat or the book Bhagavat, one gets gradual promotion on the path of devotion. But actually, these are facts, as they are explained by Śrīla Narada Deva, who happened to be a maidservant's son in his previous life. Prabhupada goes on in the purport. These are the miraculous effects of the association of Bhagavat. So it's important to understand, why did Prabhupada emphasize so much the distribution of his books, the Bhagavata Katha, or the message of the Bhagavatam. And here we see in these purports, every line has very, very deep meaning. Very deep meaning. Prabhupada so many times gave so many instructions. I had a personal experience with Śrīla Prabhupada in 1974, where one very wealthy life member came from Delhi to meet with Śrīla Prabhupada. And he was talking about in Hindi and English and Sanskrit. And he had brought one big pundit with him. And this pundit had brought a manuscript of the Manu Samhita. And he was showing Prabhupada the Manu Samhita. And Śrīla Prabhupada was talking how the devotees in the Western countries have taken up to this Sanatan Dharma, this Bhagavad Dharma. They are chanting, they're engaging in hearing Bhagavatam, worshipping Tulsi, associating with devotees, going on Samkirtan, engaging in the service of the deity. And the life member was like shaking his head like, wow, this is nice. And the pundit was saying, but do they study the Sanskrit? And I was in a room and I was totally surprised. Prabhupada says, oh yeah, he knows, he studied Manu Samhita. And I'm looking at Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, oh, you quote him something from Manu Samhita. And I was like totally shocked. I only had learned one verse from the Manu Samhita in one of his purports, where Prabhupada describes how women should never be independent. They should always be under the protection of their husband, their father, of their son. So I quoted the verse in Sanskrit, and the pundit was like, what is this? Like looking at me, I was some strange animal who had fallen out of a tree or something. And the life, but Prabhupada pointed out, just see these Westerners. Although they are born as Mleccha Yavana, still by hearing the message of Bhagavatam, they are preaching like that. Of course, that was Prabhupada's encouragement. I'm a fool number one, but Prabhupada was always trying to encourage like that. Also in 1976, when we had the opening of the Radha Madan Mohan Temple at Janmastami in August of 1976 in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh, India, the Mahamsa Swami had invited so many dignitaries and the governor of the state and so many important personalities, and different pundits had come. Because what happened, we had been warned by some of the local people and life members that if you do not get local pundits or Vaishnav Brahmins to do this opening ceremony, the local people will not accept your temple. They will boycott. And Prabhupada said, that is all right. You can invite them. So we had arranged for Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya, who was a very nice Sri Vaishnava Ramanuja Pandit, to assemble a team of 12 Vaishnava Brahmins to do the 3 or 4 day ceremonies, because the technical way of opening the temple according to the rituals in Hari Bhaktivilas and these various Pancharatra literatures is fairly complex. So although Prabhupada, just like he did in Vrindavan, he invited these local pundits, but he explains also in the Bhagavatam in one purport that we can just do this temple opening by chanting Hare Krishna and just doing an abhishek. Simple. But these pundits, they go to so many elaborate ceremonies and pujas and everything. So they did that. But Prabhupada was very pleased. And when they came to see Śrīla Prabhupāda upstairs in his room, he had a long discussion with this pundit, Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya, who incidentally was very favorable to our movement. And he was one of the first people we met when we went to Bangalore in 1972 in the summer. He was very helpful. He introduced us to many future life members, arranged many programs. Very, very nice devotee. So when Prabhupada had discussion with him, they were discussing this issue of whether Lord Narayana or Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada quoted from the Narayana Upanishad, Brahmanyo Devaki Putro Brahmanyo Madhusudanaha, that Lord Krishna, the son of Devaki, who is also known as Madhusudana, is the personality of Godhead, the original personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada very kindly engaged all these people, and he wanted to go to all the major temples in South India to visit there and preach, although his health was not very good, and he requested Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya to make arrangement, because Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya was very influential. He knew all the heads of all the major temples all over South India, and many of them in North India. So he was going to arrange for Śrīla Prabhupada to visit. So like that, Śrīla Prabhupada, very powerful influence of the devotee Bhagavat, was influencing many of these persons to engage in his movement. Incidentally, 1 year earlier in Hyderabad, there was one devotee who had come there, a very influential life member who had been deputed by the Indian government to become ambassador of India to a foreign country. And he had a very beautiful mansion and very nice grounds. And he arranged for a nice pandal and invited all kinds of life members, dignitaries, wealthy persons, government officials. And Prabhupada gave a lecture, and at the end, one important life member asked Śrīla Prabhupada, what is the goal of your movement? Why are you doing all this preaching? And Prabhupada says, our goal is to make every home into a temple. Basically, this is the same as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described the Pritiviti Ajata Nagaradi Gram, Sarvata Prache Morim Oibe Morinam, that my name will be sung in every town, village, and farm around the world. So sometimes devotees ask, like recently I had a conversation with a devotee in Asia. He says, well, there seemed to be so much division amongst the devotees, even amongst the Prabhupada devotees, or this wrong term they use, the so-called Ritviks. He said, well, how will this spread all around the world? I said, well, first of all, because it's been predicted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. There is no problem in understanding. It will happen. This is God's own prediction. How it will happen, that we may not know, but we can do our part by chanting, by worshiping Tulsi, by hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, chanting our japa, offering our foodstuff to Krishna and Śrīla Prabhupada, and engaging in preaching. Prabhupada devised the perfect simple method. Give them one of my books. What will your 15 minutes talking do? It's still applicable today. We see on this picture, I see that Bhaktivedanta has got his daughter. He's training his daughter to follow all these things. He was telling me recently he told me his wife is even a better devotee than I. She takes pleasure in assisting the deity, offering the foodstuff to the deity, the chanting, the Tulsi. It's like a virus. A virus can be very, very affecting everybody. Let me tell you a little story. Years ago, my father in Canada was dying. So I went to Montreal on my way to Quebec, and I stayed with the devotee who was present on this call, Aprakrita. So at 2:30 in the morning, I'm sleeping like a rock. I sleep very deeply. Big Maya, Tamagun Maya. Okay, 2:30 in the morning, I hear some rumbling, some kind of chanting. I was thinking, this person went to bed at 10. He's up at 2:30. That's that's only 4.5 hours of sleep. And he's chants 25 rounds a day, strictly follows everything, cooks for the deities. He's always preaching. He goes out in Samkirtan in freezing cold weather in the winter. In the summer, he takes out a Samkirtan party with Nandikeshwar Prabhu's son-in-law in Montreal. They go chant, they distribute books. He's constantly engaged. This is the message. It's like we hear here, the powerful message of the personality of God and how it's affecting people. This is the power of Śrīla Prabhupada, that such persons, such exalted souls are coming out of so many devotees. It's like I was telling about our friend in Australia, Śrīmad Prabhu. He distributes a few thousand samosas, prasadam, every single week, and he preaches. And along with the samosas, he's distributing books, constantly telling people about Krishna. I often quote from this song of Bhaktivedanta Thakur called Nadia Godrume Nityananda Mahajan. This is a song that was sung by His Holiness, His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Thakur, in which he describes the preaching method of Nityananda Prabhu. And within that song, at the end of the song, it says, Jiver Daya Laha Krishnanam, that kindness and mercy to all souls means to distribute, give him the name of Krishna. Just like Aprakrita is doing, just like Shyama Sundar is doing, just like Jiva Goswami Prabhu and his good wife Andabaya is doing, just like Vishwakarma is doing, just like Venkat is doing, just like so many people on this call. I was just informed there's another devotee in Malaysia, Swarat Prabhu. He is also engaging in so many preaching activities. So it's not like a complicated thing that one has to develop 4 arms or become a Paramamsa before he starts preaching. It's simple. Just like in Canada, Vishwakarma, every single day, he has an ashram, a temple in his house, big house. And every single day, he has kirtan. People come and listen to the kirtan. He's always talking about Krishna. He has a tape of Prabhupada chanting japa 24 hours a day, and he's always cooking prasadam, distributing prasadam, and it's become famous because he's a very expert cook. So like that, remember the story I told of Jayananda, who would not go anywhere without simply wonderfuls and cookies that he would have, and he would always have this side bag. And one time I was with him going to San Francisco in 1970 to the market. I said, well, what's in the bag? He says, you're going to see what's in the bag. So he comes in the market, and all of a sudden people say, hey, Jim, Jayananda, come here. He's pull out Simply Wonderfuls, give him a Simply Wonderfuls, give him a card, give him a back to God. And all of a sudden these people, oh, you're here. Take some potatoes, take some bananas, take some vegetables, take some eggplants, take some carrots. Here's some potatoes for your Sunday feast. He is distributing cookies, prasadam. Very simple, very simple. And Jayananda always was smiling. This is one thing about the process. If you're actually following the process, you're going to feel some ecstasy, some transcendental bliss. Why? Because the name of Krishna is non-different than Krishna. It's not that somebody will say, well, it works with Prabhupada or it works with somebody. No, it can work with anybody. Nama chintamani chesana rasa vigraha. Nitya purna shuddha muktva abhinatvam nama namina. In the Padma Purana, Prabhupada quotes that verse many times. Abhinna means non-different. Nama, nami, the name Krishna and the person Krishna, there's no difference. In one lecture, Prabhupada says, when you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna is dancing on your tongue. But because we are fallen, we are conditioned, we forget. We forget. We're absorbed in so many nonsense things. But if we remember, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. He is always in bliss of Krishna, in service of Krishna. He's saying, na anuragana, I don't have any taste. In the second verse of the Shikshastakam, he is describing Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarvashakta, that you invested all your potencies in this sacred name. Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranakala, and there's no rules and regulations. Not like this caste Brahmin who thinks, no, you got to do your Sandhya Vandana, your guy 3 times a day, and he goes to the coffee shop or eats onions. No, that's not going to work. I once gave a lecture in South India one time with a Chutananda, and we noticed in the crowd how there was a lot of these Ramanuja Brahmins. So as part of the discussion, we describe what are the 4 regulative principles that should be followed by all Vaishnavas. And I said, you will never find or hear Ramanuja or Vedanta Deshika or Pillai Lokacharya, these are great acharyas in their line, sitting in a coffee shop or eating onions or drinking coffee or tea. You'll never find that. And they were all laughing. They were laughing because many of them spent all day in a coffee shop reading the newspaper and gossiping. But Prabhupada is so potent, even though we have no qualification, we are not qualified. He gave that mercy by which we can connect with that transcendental process and get the ultimate benefit of engaging and go back to home, back to Godhead. I'll shut up for now. I've spoken enough. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. That was an amazing discussion on today's verses, and so many exquisite stories, everyone, to transport us all back into time when Prabhupada was personally present with us and give us an insight through Yashoda's experiences on the kind of person Śrīla Prabhupada was in his Vapu presence. So this is completely a great blessing and opportunity for all of us here at this group to get the association of other devotees, and especially the association of our speaker, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and his amazing recollection of all these exquisite pastimes that he has captured in his mind. Prabhu, to be very honest, it's hard for me to grasp how much you recall. It's extraordinary, and congratulations to you and your Krishna consciousness and your advancement, because if you think about it, the hardest thing to do is to hear. And most people, they can't hear, although they can hear a lot of nonsense. This is the business of the conditioned soul. They're always, we'll go to this, I wanted to go to this small section, Yashoda, if it'd be all right, from text 5 of the second canto, where it's discussing about the business of the living entity. And
go ahead.
Yeah, Vinkat, could you please just go to the purport here? We read it recently, but I think it's still relevant here. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, or the man are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds in the nest become busy with questions and answers. Prabhupada says, their question is, where is food? Where is sex? In the evening, the same birds come back and again become busy with questions and answers. The human beings, unless he is fast asleep at night, he's busy with questions and answers. The businessman on the marketplace is busy with questions and answers. And so also the lawyers in the court and the students in the schools and colleges, the legislators in the parliament are also busy with questions and answers. And the politicians or the press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. So Prabhupada's giving this explanation of the business of the living entity is to fill themselves up with all this nonsense, just like consciousness is pure, but if water is filled with dirt, it becomes contaminated. So in the same way, consciousness is pure, but when it fills up with all these nonsense questions and answers, then your understanding of the purpose of life becomes obliterated by useless sound vibration. So here in these purports and that Prabhupada has given us today, that Yaśodā spoke upon, it is this constant inundation of nonsense that destroys the consciousness of the living entity. Now, it's not only the input of sound, but it's also the flapping of the tongue. And I just wanted to refer here to the nectar of instruction here, which is these are the verses from the Upadeshamrita, and the purports are lectures that Prabhupada gave on these verses. So it says, what is the cause of the destruction of one's devotional service? One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. So we'll go to page 20 in the Nectar of Instruction, in the purport, Vinkat. Another impediment is prajalpa. So this is the term for unnecessary talking. When we mix with a few friends, we immediately begin unnecessary talking, sounding just like croaking toads. If we must talk, we should talk about the Krishna Consciousness movement. Those outside of the Krishna Consciousness movement are interested in reading heaps of newspapers, magazines, and novels, solving crossword puzzles, and doing many other nonsensical things. In this fashion, people simply waste their valuable time and energy. In the Western countries, old men retired from active life play cards, fish, watch television, and debate about useless socio-political schemes. All these and other frivolous activities are included in the prajalpa category. Intelligent persons interested in Krishna consciousness should never take part in such activities. So these are directions from Prabhupada, how to fill our time up in such a way, like a person bitten by the serpent becomes unconscious. He goes into a coma. And the way to, the antidote for it is given by the physician. So the spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupāda, is giving us the cure to material life through the pages of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and his glorious presentation of them in his original books and scriptures, which we should carefully study and follow. Yaśodā, please, if you could comment further, and then we'll move to questions and answers.
Yep. I think there is a very important, this is from the collected lectures on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by Śrīla Prabhupāda, published by the Bhaktivedanta Archives. And it's very significant that on the same verse that we're reading, all these verses in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada is giving so many lectures. I'm going to read a little bit from a lecture Prabhupada gave in San Francisco on this same verse on March 25th, 1967. March 25th, 1967. Prabhupada says, Shrinvatam Svakatah Krishnaha Punyashravana Kirtanaha Ridyantosta Yabadrani Vidunuti Suritsatam. Krishna, this sound, transcendental sound. Krishna means the highest pleasure. Highest pleasure. Everyone, every living being is seeking after pleasure, but he does not know how to seek pleasure. Therefore, in this material conception of life, we are being frustrated in every step for satisfying our pleasure, because we have no information from which platform we can have pleasure. That we are discussing for the last few weeks, that we are not this body. We are consciousness. Not exactly consciousness. Consciousness is the symptom of my real identity. I am pure soul. I am merged within this material body. And the modern material science, they have no stress of it. Therefore, they are sometimes misled about this understanding of the spirit soul. But the spirit soul is a fact, and everyone can understand by the presence of consciousness. Any child can understand. The consciousness is a symptom of the spirit soul. So the whole process now we are trying from the Bhagavad Gita is to bring one to get him on the platform of consciousness. And if we act from the platform of consciousness, then we may not be pushed again into the platform of this bodily conception. And if we can continue that platform, if we continue to act on that platform of consciousness, then at the end of this body, not even at the end of this body, even in the presence of this body, we shall be free. We shall be free from material contamination. Our spiritual life will be revived, and the result will be that in our next life after leaving this body, we shall have our full spiritual life eternally. Spirit is described. We have already discussed on this point that the spirit is eternal. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Even after the destruction of this body, the consciousness is not destroyed. That continues. Rather, consciousness transferred to another type of body makes me again alive to the material conception of life. And that is also described in the Bhagavad Gita. Yam yam vapismaram bhavam tyajati ante kalibaram. At the time of death, if our consciousness is pure, then it is sure that next life is not material. Next life, pure spiritual life. But if our consciousness is not pure at the point or the verge of death, just leaving this body, then we have to take again this material body. That is the process going on by nature's law. We've got our finer body. This is gross body. The body which you are seeing, which I am seeing, this is gross body. Just like shirt and coat. Well, within your coat there is shirt, and within your shirt there is a body. Similarly, the pure soul is covered by shirt and coat. The shirt is mind, intelligence, and false ego. Mind, intelligence, and false ego. False ego means that the wrong conception that I am matter, I am something product of this material world. This wrong conception makes me localized. Just like because I've taken my birth in America, therefore I think myself American. Because I've taken my birth in India, therefore I think myself as Indian. But as pure soul, I'm neither Indian nor American. I am pure soul. Because this is designation. This American or Indian or German or Englishman or cats and dogs and this and that, black and white, all these are designations. Spiritual consciousness means to become free from all these designations. So we can appreciate how Śrīla Prabhupāda is constantly preaching about the important message of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in all of his lecture, all of his presentations. That is the mercy of his divine grace. I believe those classes are also available online on various platforms there. Hare
Excellent.
Krishna.
Excellent. And we never tire of hearing these messages being delivered from Śrīla Prabhupada through the association of our God brothers and God sisters as well. Vishva Garuda, did you have a comment you'd like to share with us this morning at the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam discussion?
It just amazes me how Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu relates to all his pastimes with Prabhupada as though they all happened yesterday.
It's extraordinary, huh?
It's
a great bless. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to embarrass him, but I could say this to all of us in the group that Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu does have a rigid sadhana. It's not that he just gets up and looks at the clock and wonders what he's going to do today, but he is fully engaged in the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya in whatever capacity he can do. And in this way, he's blessed by the Paramatma, the super soul, because one cannot remember these things. From me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So when people are committed, like all of you are, Jiva Goswami, he comes diligently to the classes every week, and it's always enlivening to see everyone, all of the people in these classes, Vijaya Pandit like that, and Aprakrita, etc. I don't want to leave anyone out, but just going briefly through the list, all of you that do come to the classes, this is a sign of your sincerity and your focus, because this is Vishva Garuda. This is a voluntary process. We're volunteering our time, but who is getting the benefit? We are getting the most benefit by giving our time to this, as Prabhupada has explained this morning, that when people sacrifice themselves to hear the proper philosophy that's given by the pure devotee in the proper environment, they get the benefit of it. I was talking to my god brother Radha Madhava this morning before the class. He's originally from India, Bengal, and he was in the Gurukula, and he got initiated by Prabhupada with the name Radha Madhava after the deities in Mayapur. And we were discussing how so much benefit there is from association of devotees who are focused on the original teachings of Śrīla Prabhupada. How do you see it, Vishva Garuda? How do you see it that way?
Like Prabhupada says, you have been reading there now, human calculation fails. And to see this miracle manifest in the heart, it just happens again and again and again. That's the proof of the experiment. It happens again and again if we just sincerely touch the pure devotee. And we have to experience that miracle by passing on the torch to others. And that's where we will be in touch. That's all. That's our selfish motive.
Well, it is. It's actually a great benefit. It's a great benefit. Yeah. I was explaining to Radha Madhava exactly that point, because he was saying, oh, you're calling me up, you're pushing me to chant my rounds, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, really, the benefit is if you do this devotional service for the benefit of others, then Krishna blesses you. That's the personal result that you get. Now, how do you explain that? It's like tasting the honey. How do you know what the honey tastes like? Like if you don't dip your finger in, you can't explain it. Oh, it's sweet. But if you perform devotional service with sincerity, without motive, Krishna will bless you with that understanding. Yaśodā, please.
I wanted to relate a little story. First of all, none of these discussions about myself are very accurate. You should focus on Prabhupada, not on me. But I wanted to tell a little story. In 1976, in October, we had gone to Chandigarh. There was a devotee named Chaitanya Das, or like that. And he had organized a very nice program for Śrīla Prabhupada to come. He had invited various journalists and dignitaries and life members, a lot of important members of society. So we had gone with our party, a few of us, and we had gotten various books in a van. And what happened when we got to the temple, we went to the temple, and in the meantime, what happened is somebody broke into our van and stole some of the books. So when we realized that, there was a little bit of a dispute. And somewhere or other, Prabhupada heard about it, and he called us in the room, and he took his checkbook out. He says, I will pay the money. I will write the check and pay the money. And we're looking, no, Prabhupada, we cannot take money from you. We will give you the money. Prabhupada says, no, I don't want my disciples fighting over money. I will pay whatever money is required. I will give the money. You tell me and I will give the money. Don't fight over the money. So the dispute ended. And a little bit later, Prabhupada's servant said that Prabhupada was very upset. Basically, very upset that some devotees had behaved like that, trying to steal the books because they said there was not enough book in the local temple or whatever the situation was. But Prabhupada's attitude is that he was thinking in a very transcendental way, that don't fight over money, just engage in the service, and then all of this will come. I was also told by another Indian devotee, who is now a sannyasi, that he once asked Śrīla Prabhupada, in order to preach, basically, it's going to require a lot of money to spread this movement. Prabhupada said, you don't have to worry. If you follow the regulative principles and chant 16 rounds, money will fall at your feet. You'll never have problem with money. So, oh, very nice. When we came back one time from a preaching tour in Tamil Nadu, Coimbatore, Bangalore, we went to Bombay to see Śrīla Prabhupada, and we told him that many times when we approach people to request them to become life members and give donations, these people want to know if their names or the names of their trust or their family could be put on a plaque near the temple. Because in India, it's common that people who give donations, they give them some mention close to the entrance of the temple. Just like if you go to the Radharaman temple in Vrindavan, they have on the wall a large plaque or a board in which they basically, they give the name of the people and their contributions. It's typical in Indian temples to give credit. Prabhupada says, we do not mind. We can make a plaque and give them the money. But you should tell them like this, that Krishna doesn't see how much you gave, but how much you're keeping for yourself. You should tell them like that. So that was like a very good preaching point that Prabhupada gave us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for another pastime. Vinkat Prabhu, any questions from the YouTube group that are watching the class, or anything else that's come up on the chat for us?
No, there's no questions on YouTube. And Tattva Darshan Prabhu has shared a quote from Śrīla Prabhupada.
Please read it out for us.
My Guru Maharaj used to say that you do not try to preach for getting some money. Money will come automatically. On your feet, money will say, please accept me. You should preach very sincerely. That is the business. Never bother that where is money, money. So it's from, sorry. That's from a lecture on April 10th, 1976.
Fantastic. Vijay Pandit in Italy, what are your thoughts on this morning's class for our group? Vijaya Pandit in Italy.
Hare Krishna.
Please, Haribol Prabhu, please share some thoughts.
My thoughts. Before I try to share my thoughts, I have to listen carefully. I think for many, many years, because I lost many, many years, listening nonsense, all deviations. Now I'm on the recovery, and Yaśodā-nandana knows what I'm saying. So for me, is the best to listen what all of you have to say, because it's a beginning, it's a new beginning for me. Before I will share something, I have to understand what Śrīla Prabhupada really taught us. And this I can achieve only by listening all of you. Then I would say something. In the meantime, I just can listen.
Well, that's
Thank
a
you.
perfect formula. Thank you very much, and carry on with your wonderful work in Italy. Janis Priya in Hawaii. Are you with us still? I can't see your picture. but
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda.
I wanted
Yes,
to mention before you speak that Janis Priya has been a devotee for 45, 48 years. And 50, sorry, excuse me, and has been traveling all over the world preaching. He's residing in Hawaii right now. Prabhu, please share some thoughts for our group this morning at the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam discussion.
as always, I want to be thankful to this wonderful association we get here. I just love this program. I love every part of this program. I love the format. I love the speakers. Everybody's nobody's looking for name or fame, so that's so important, because when you have people that are trying to promote themselves to be to acquire some name or fame, then that's the poison in the milk that we were talking about. So it's so nice to be with devotees that are really trying to please Prabhupada, even if our pleasing Prabhupada might not be of the highest caliber. Any attempt to serve a pure devotee, even the smallest attempt to serve the lotus feet of a pure devotee, or the devotees that are helping push on this mission. As Prabhupada said, you could serve me by cooperating and pushing this movement together. So here we are, and we're listening to Bhagavatam nicely, and I feel so very blessed to be in this association. And we're going to start, formally we're starting a temple, a Prabhupada temple in our home. Krishna blessed us and gave us $1 million home, half a block from the ocean, in a beautiful part of Hawaii, and we're starting officially a temple. So please pray for us and bless us. And if anybody wants to come and join, we have room for book distributors, cooks, preach. Anybody who wants to come and serve Prabhupada, we have a place for you. If you want to serve Śrīla Prabhupada, Prabhupada has a plan for you. Hare Krishna.
Fantastic, Prabhu. Thank you so much. And I wanted to mention that throughout our group, there are different people with programs like Rath-Yatra Prabhu in South India and Janis Priya in Hawaii, etc., Aprakrita in Montreal, like that. So we're gradually unfolding a global community of Vaishnavas who are focused specifically on Prabhupada Vani, on the sound of Prabhupada, all of his messages in his unadulterated books, and through the association of his disciples who are focused on Prabhupada as Param Guru, Jagat Guru. Jiva Goswami, how are you today? Share some thoughts with us on today's class. Your microphone, Jiva. Yeah.
Can you
You're
hear me
there.
now?
I know. Yes, we can, Prabhu.
Okay,
Please.
great. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastrikaya, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhihaya. This is what we experience. I must say that I'm so grateful for this association. I'm looking forward to seeing Vishwagaruda in a few days in Prabhupada Village. We're going to meet for the festival where we worship Lord Nrsingadev, his appearance. And we're moving down there on the 2nd of May to spread the Prabhupada Nuga movement down there amongst people who are not necessarily so receptive to the Prabhupada Nugas, but we're going to be humble. We're going to spread the message by becoming Vaishnavas, by making a sincere attempt to follow the program that Śrīla Prabhupada has given us religiously, so that no one can have any objection to what we call those who are initiated by the officiating Acharya on behalf of Śrīla Prabhupada. And please bless us. We look forward to seeing Vishwapram very shortly. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. You know, I wanted to make sure that both of you extend our best wishes to our godbrother Madhuha. I've known Madhuha for 35 years. We were instrumental when I was in Toronto of launching the traveling Rath-Yatra program with a Prabhu Devi Deva from Philadelphia and Chiru and other devotees. I was the president at the time, so although I had many duties, I was not specifically involved in the program outside of full support of it. And now it's proven to be a very important part of the exposure of Krishna consciousness to the general public, especially in America. So please extend my humble obeisances. His nickname to us is Mud. And the reason he has the word mud is because he's always working very hard to spread Krishna consciousness. So it's not a derogatory term. It's actually a compliment for him. Yaśodā, please, by all means.
Yeah, I just want to mention that today is a very special day.
Yes.
It's called Akshaya Tritiya, according to the Mayapur calendar. On the 23rd of April, this Akshaya Tritiya is the day that the holy river Ganges descended on earth from the higher Svarga. It's also the day when Parashuram Avatar, the 6th incarnation of Lord Vishnu, was born. It is also the day of the beginning of Treta Yuga, and that the holy Ramayana was recited or started. It's a day that Vedavyas commenced the recital of the Mahabharata to Lord Ganesh. And it's also the day in Krishna's pastimes when Sudama Vipra visited Dwarka and offered Lord Krishna a little bit of rice. And Krishna was so indebted to him, so happy with that. So yesterday I sent out an email. If some of you did not receive the email, you can always write to me at yasoda1008@yahoo.com. That's YASODA1008@yahoo.com. Just yesterday, I received an email from my old friend Damagosh, and it's very interesting. He sends out some emails with many nice citations from Śrīla Prabhupāda. And this was an email with regard that many devotees are often asking these questions about the broken disciplic succession. And this is a conversation with Śrīla Prabhupada on September 2nd, 1976 in New Delhi. September 2nd to 1976. A devotee, 5,000 years back till now, there's only 30 acharyas? Prabhupada, chain is broken when there are false spiritual masters. Otherwise, it is not broken. Chain is broken if a so-called spiritual master speaks something manufactured. Then the chain is broken. Otherwise, chain is not broken. Prabhupada, no, you could not. Uktastata bhavyata eva sadbi kintu prabhor yapriya eva tasya. The spiritual master is as good as God because he's very dear to Krishna. He's preaching Krishna's mission. And Krishna is very, very pleased with him. Nachatasman manushyeshu kaschin me priyakritamaha. Bhagavad Gita 1869. That is spiritual master's qualification. He's trying his best to deliver the soul from these clutches of Maya. That is a great service. Therefore is very dear. One who is chanting or executing devotional service for his personal benefit, and one who is trying to deliver others for others' benefit, there is difference. Charanarvindam, Śrīla Prabhupāda. Isn't it the case that for some people that when the disciplic succession is lost, because if you're following a false guru, for example, your teachings now will always be on the planet. There will be other gurus who present some false teaching. So does that mean that for some people, the disciplic succession is there and some people it's not there? If they're following a false guru, does that mean they've lost the disciplic succession? And Prabhupada changed the topic. Oh, there's a good boy, Nama. Kapila. There is another conversation where Ganesh in Australia was asking Śrīla Prabhupada. This is a conversation in Perth, Australia on May 9th, 1975. May 9th, 1975, which Śrīla Prabhupada discusses the same point. Ganesh, Śrīla Prabhupada, if the knowledge was handed down by the saintly kings, evam parampara praptam, Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 4, text number 2. How is it that the knowledge was lost? Śrīla Prabhupada, when it was not handed down, simply understood by speculation, or if it is not handed down as it is, they might have made some changes, or they did not hand it down. Suppose I hand it down to you, but if you do not do that, then it is lost. Now the Krishna consciousness movement is going on in my presence. Now after my departure, if you do not do this, then it is lost. If you go on as you are doing now, then it will go on. But if you stop. So this is a little bit of a reason why we keep insisting, do not change the books, do not change the kirtan, do not change the method of offering the bhoga. Do not change the method of offering artik. Do not manufacture mantras, because this is the warning. Prabhupada said, if it is not handed down, they might have made some changes. Prabhupada is warning. He handed it down to us. But now after my departure, if you do not do this, then it is lost. So it's very important. I had the personal direct experience with Śrīla Prabhupada one time, who told me if they change one word from my books, then everything I've done will be spoiled. Now, some people can't comprehend that. They just cannot penetrate their very thick cranium. Now, we know it may not be a case of rectocranial inversion, but it's definitely a case of ultracranium density. Do not change his instruction. Do not change his books. Do not manufacture mantras. That's how everything is lost. Not from me. Not that I'm saying that. Prabhupada is saying that. Prabhupada is warning. On February 3rd, 1975 in Hawaii, morning walk, February 3rd, 1975. Prabhupada, so this is the process. That is this. You sing every day. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Karya Ekya. That is the process. Wherever you live, if you follow strictly the instruction of Guru, then you remain perfect. But if we concoct ideas against the instruction of Guru, then we are doomed, hell. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya prasadat nagati kutopi. There is no more shelter, finish. Yasya prasadat. If Guru thinks that this person, I wanted to take him back home, back to Godhead, now he's going against me, is not following, aprasada, is displeased, then everything finished. Again, the foregoing was from a conversation by Śrīla Prabhupāda in Hawaii on February 3rd, 1975. So these are very important points, because many devotees will ask, well, what is the wrong if they just change Radharani's name or do this, do that? No. We want to follow Prabhupada as he wants to be followed. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, and very instructive direction from Prabhupada personally for all of us. And we should carefully meditate on these words today. I wanted to, while we're finish up this morning's program, I wanted to mention we are releasing a new magazine coming out called the Hare Krishna magazine. And it is a very beautiful cover that we've designed. And the first edition will be various articles to explain about the position of Prabhupada as Diksha Guru and Siksha Guru for disciples moving forward into the future. There'll be all kinds of wonderful articles there, references, and some other items for bringing people to Krishna consciousness with the proper understanding of our philosophy. So we're looking forward to that. And we're also working on a course, an introductory course on Krishna consciousness. We have over 22 topics that we'll be presenting for new people, specifically to give them an understanding of the foundation of our philosophy so that they can move forward. And of course, they're welcome to attend our weekly classes on Krishna Consciousness Movement YouTube channel. And I think we have almost 100 classes now recorded. So we're at quite a nice pace, and within due course we'll have hundreds and hundreds of classes recorded for the future generations that want to take Krishna consciousness up. And when we're not present, they can still refer to these classes as a guideline on how to remain focused on the original teachings of Śrīla Prabhupada as he delivered it to all of us through his Prabhupada disciples. So thank you very much, everyone. Don't forget, we have class on coming up on Wednesday evening, Chaitanya Charitamrita class. And that's at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here in Canada and the Eastern United States. So you're welcome to join. And please share this opportunity with your friends. And if anyone is interested in participating with us in any of the programs that we're developing, the magazines or the classes that for Bhakti training and other activities that we've got on slate for continuing our Sankirtan mission as a group, please get in touch with us. You can get a hold of Vinkat or myself or Yaśodā or any of the Prabhus here on the call that you want to get in touch with, and we'll discuss how you can participate and help us in our efforts to proliferate the pure message of the pure devotee globally. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. We're going to call...
Prabhu, we had Andabaya Mataji. She wanted to make some comment.
Oh, I missed that. I didn't see the comment. Go ahead, Ananda. Maya,
Thank you,
please.
Prabhu. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I wrote this earlier. I was going to have Venkat read it, but then I decided maybe I'll read it. These two verses today are such a really good example of what we have just been experiencing recently. If we do not follow the system of initiation given to us by His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupada, then calamities will happen. We saw that firsthand. Unfortunately, some of our senior God brothers have, due to their offenses to His Divine Grace, taken on demoniac tendencies, threatening some of people's lives in front of the deities at Mangalarti, trying to dig up their past and twisting it into lies, going to the Vaishnav family houses, spreading false rumors, trying to kick them out from going to Mangal Arati and greeting the deities, not even allowing them to do the seva of cleaning up after other devotees. All the while, instead of reading from Śrīla Prabhupāda's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam leading up to Ram Navami, a few days before Ram Navami, instead, this person was reading from some unknown devotee rendition on the Ramayana, and only for 2 days glorifying the demons, Ravana and other demons, for 2 days, setting through 2 Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam classes. And then when my husband on the 3rd day was given the chance to give the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class, he read about Lord Ram from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and this devotee fell asleep in his class. And so I just want to let you all know that although these kinds of things are happening there in Prabhupada Village, we have, because we have had association with all of you, and Yaśodā-nandana has been guiding us so nicely, we have remained in the highest standard that we can come up with in Vaishnav etiquette, and been respectful and loving and kind back, not taken offense, not been vocally against anybody there, even though this is happening. And the outcome has been very nice. The person is now threatening to resign from the board, feeling outnumbered, and seeing us as a huge threat. I think that the people are just tired of that person going on and on about how evil we are, when everybody else sees that we're pretty mellow and nice and willing to help everybody. So please bless us, and we will push forward. And thank you for your blessings. Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you for that explanation. All I can say is that we're looking forward to moving forward in a positive way in Krishna consciousness, despite the chaos that's been infected into Prabhupada's mission, unfortunately. This was predicted by him, but it's not something. The dogs may bark as the camel moves through the village. You know, we're all covered with some kind of fault and from the past or even in the present, but at the same time, we're focused on our mission, which is to establish Prabhupada as the pure devotee Jagat Guru for all of us. And these dogs may bark, but what can you do? Just let them carry on, and we'll carry on back home, back to Godhead. Vinkad, please bring forward the kirtan of Prabhupada chanting in the early 60s, and we can all chant along and take shelter of the holy name together.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled devotees of the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vanchakalpa
Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Chantez Hare Krishna, votre vie serait sublime. Votre vie serait sublime.